that still speaks to us, that still talks to us, that still leads us in the way that you want us to go. Father, I thank you for your presence in this place this morning. Lord Jesus, I just ask that everything that I say from this point forward would glorify you. Father, this morning we just declare our love for you. It's in the precious and matchless name of Jesus that we pray. Amen. Well, good morning. I'm stalling in case you can't tell. I'm just kind of listening right now. I've got a sermon over here. I'll probably get to it in a minute. I say probably, but I promise you nothing. I just want to share with you from my heart this morning kind of the things that God has been doing in me over the last month or so. It's been a really deep time of reflection for me. God has kind of been working on the inside of me and who I am as a man and as a pastor and what he wants me to do. And it's been really, really awesome. And when I say that, that means that I like it, but at the same time, it really is awful. Does that make any sense to any of you? Sometimes when God is dealing with me, he's breaking me down and he's dealing with some of the stuff on the inside and he's changing my mindsets and he's kind of setting me up for different things. And like some of that isn't fun. But at the same time, I know that that's like the best place that you could ever be. It's the best place that you could ever be because he's molding you into the person that he wants you to be. And so it's been really deep lately as he's kind of changed the way I thought and he's kind of changed the way I view ministry and what I want to do and what he wants me to do. So it's been really, really deep and it's been a really amazing time of reflection and things inside of me are starting to change and I enjoy that, and I'm speaking so vaguely, but things are so awesome, right? Like, God has given me this new idea for the way he wants me to preach, and I'm just going to share a little bit. I don't know, most of you don't care, but I'm going to share that with you anyway because I think I'm supposed to. So I've been preaching through series for so long, right? You guys know I preach through series. We're doing a series today, and I might get there in a minute. But we've been preaching through series for so long because it's such an easy way for people to tie in. And for so long, the thing that God draws my heart to, and I'm still that man, is there's nothing in my heart that I want more than for people to come to know Jesus. For people to come to know Jesus. Like that's all that really matters is for us to lead people to Jesus. He told us to go and make disciples, and that's what we're supposed to do, right? And that's what all this is on the cross, right? These are all these names that we wrote down of people that we're praying for, of people that we want to reach out to. And I hope that most of you haven't forgotten the names that you wrote down. But that's the man that God created me to be. And for so long, that was so deep in me that I think I forgot the other side of it. For so long, my heart was so much here that I forgot about here. And the thing that I realize is if we're going to get there, we've got to get deeper here, right? I've started to realize as I think about my time in the Word and I think about what we need, and there's nothing more that we need as people than to get deeper and deeper into the Word. Like if you really want to grow in Jesus, if you really want to be a deeper Christian, if you really want to get closer to him, the way that you're going to get there the quickest, the way that you're really going to get there is to get deeper into his Word. And what I know from growing up, and even when I was in college, is that the Bible scares a lot of people. Like, there's a whole lot of words in the Bible. There's a whole lot of pages. It's intimidating to look at. And I get that. But I know that we need to get deeper and deeper into the Word. And so what I did is I have created this Bible reading plan, right? and you say, man, Bible reading plan, it's the beginning of the year, I'm all for that, and 2 weeks in, it's over, right? And I think that the reason for most people that we get so overwhelmed when we do a Bible reading plan is because at some point, we start to read the Bible, and every day for a little while, we're good, right? You wake up every morning, you're deep, and then life kind of happens. And all of a sudden, you miss a day. So the next day, you kind of make that up, right? And you're like, oh, I got this. I got 2 days today. And you make it up. But then all of a sudden, like something happens for 3 days. And you're like, man, there is no way I'm ever going to be able to make up all those days. There's no way. So we start to get discouraged. So what do? We quit. We quit. So what I did is I created this plan. It's 5 days a week, right? Monday through Friday, that's it. That's beautiful. You get the weekend off. Monday through Friday. And normally on most days it's 5 chapters a day. It's Old Testament, New Testament all put together. If you do this plan, you'll read through the Old Testament once and the New Testament twice in a year, the whole Bible. But here's the beauty of what God has shown me. In order to help people to kind of get into that, I think for a really long time, I'm just going to preach from whatever we read that week. So you'll read that week, and then Sunday you're going to come in, you're going to hear a message over something that you read about. And then the beauty of it is that I'm not going to encourage you to make up days that you missed. Hey, if you missed a whole week, it's okay. Just whatever week we're on, start reading there. All that other stuff, don't worry about it. You'll get it some other time. But I think that'll help us so much because all of us can dive in a little deeper. And there's no intimidation in that. There's no getting behind because you don't have to make it up. This is just what we're on this week. And if you missed it, you missed it. And if not, it's no big deal. We can just go together. So that's just kind of one of those things that God's been dealing with me on. And I shared that with you because all of you care so much. But I want to encourage you. If God is dealing with you in an area and you absolutely hate it, because it's contrary to everything that you've ever believed, it's contrary to everything that you've ever planned. Oh, I've got a plan, God, and that doesn't go with my plan. You don't understand. That's totally different. Follow him anyway. Even if it hurts, because through the pain, God will take you to a place that you could never imagine. All right, here we go. You ready? How many of you have been watching the Olympics? Right? I can't tell you how much I love sports. And like these 3 weeks of the year, I care about everything. Like ping pong is awesome. I mean table tennis, sorry. Table tennis is like the greatest sport ever. Like I really get into soccer, which I didn't realize I loved, but now I love it. It's so awesome. And I'm like, USA, right? It's probably good that the Olympics always happen during an election year because it's something for us to get together on when the times, like you go on my news feed and it's like, yes, Michael Phelps, I hate Republicans, I hate Democrats. It's like all that is. So at least it's something for us to have common ground on this time of year since we all disagree on everything else that's going on in the country. But I love the Olympics. It's been awesome. Michael Phelps is a superhuman. Right? Has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I could try to tie that in, but it wouldn't work. How many of you, if I asked you this question, if I said, if you had a little bit more money, would your life be easier? How many of you would raise your hand? If you just had a little bit more money, your life would be easier. Just me and Julie? Okay. Remember, it's okay to respond in church. Dave, you woke him up earlier a little bit, and there's still, I don't know what to do. Okay, ready? You don't have to raise your hand. But I know there's more of you that think that than that. So ready? Here we go. I'm going to ask you again. How many of you would say if you had just a little bit more money, your life would be easier? Oh, there's a little bit more of you? That's better. Now we're awake. Because you need to be awake for this because I thought that some of you would say that. So under 3 seats in here, I've taped a $100 bill. Nobody believes me. It's probably a good thing because I didn't. But, I mean, for real though, like most of us would say, if I had just a little bit more, my life would be so much easier. Even if you didn't raise your hand, there's somebody that you're like, man, if I just had a little bit more, life would be so much, I could do so much more. If I had just a little bit more, my life, it would be so much simpler. All the things I'm dealing with right now, they'd kind of just go away. So this morning, I want to look at one of the most misused and misquoted verses of all time, right? And the verse says, money is the root of all evil. Except it doesn't say that. See, and that's what I was always taught growing up. And most of us think that. We always think that. Like, I've got this picture of money, right? The root of all evil, right? Somebody really, really folded that and took a whole lot of time to make that out. And there was this whole story about how this just proves that money is evil, right? But that's what I grew up thinking. I mean, that's the life that I lived. Money is the root of all evil, and some of us believe that. We've quoted that. We've said that. But look at what Paul actually said. He said, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So some of us are thinking, well, Pastor, some people might love money. But I don't love money. I don't love money. I can't love money because I don't have enough of it. Right? Pastor, that's not me. I don't love money. I don't love it. I mean, it's something I have to have and it's something we need, but it's not, I don't have a love for it. So how do we discern if we really have a love of money? The good thing is the Bible tells us. You ready? Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. I set you up. I said, who would say that if they had more money, their life would be easier? But the Bible says if that's what we think, then we have a love of money. And all of a sudden, this whole idea has become a little bit closer to home. This whole idea starts settling in on me a little bit deeper. And when I read this definition, it makes me uncomfortable, really, to be quite honest with you. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And the reason that is because money has always been an issue in my life. Money has always been an issue. It's always been something that's talked about from the earliest time I can remember. Money has always been an issue. And I used to say things like, well, you know what? If I could just make $30,000 a year, that would be all the money I ever need. I'd be able to do everything. I'd be able to do anything that I need. And then all of a sudden, life changes. Like you have 78 kids. 77 kids. And all of a sudden, it changes, right? Well, you know what? If I just had $40,000, that's all I'd ever need. It's funny how that happens. It's funny how this idea that we have, it slowly changes. And maybe a better question that I could have asked would have been this. How much money do you need to be happy? How much money do you need to be happy? Or how much money do you need to feel secure? And the truth is that probably some of us would say just a little bit more. How much money do you need to be happy? Well, I've got this. I just need a little bit more. If you just give me just a little bit more, then I could be happy. If you give me just a little bit more, then I could be satisfied in this life. Everything that I need, I would have, and I'd be okay. The Bible tells us whoever loves money never has enough. And suddenly, it all starts to change. Suddenly, our idea about this all starts to change. And I told you, if you look at a verse, we got to look at it in context, right? So let's look at this in context. And if we think about this, Paul is writing a letter to Timothy. Now, Paul wrote 2 similar letters like this. He wrote to Timothy, and he's like, hey, man, you're my son, right? He's basically writing to Timothy like he's his own son. He wrote to Titus as well, and he's writing to them both like they're his children that he's raising up in the ministry. He's trying to give them rules. He's trying to give them structure. He's trying to tell them things that they need to know about their ministry. So when we read these letters, we can realize that there's something deep that is going on here. We can see what we're supposed to know about Jesus in the context of the church because he's trying to show them how they can lead well, how they can be great ministers, and that's what this is all about. So if we look at some of the verses before this in 1 Timothy 6, 1 Timothy 6:6 says this, but godliness with contentment is great gain. Godliness with contentment is great gain. And if you ask me, I think this is actually the big theme of this whole entire section. It's about godliness. It's not just about money, but it's about godliness. And verse 7 says this, for we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out. And you say, well, Pastor, I get that. I understand that. I realize that. And the thing is that that is really easy to understand in your head. I brought nothing in. I was born with nothing. I'm going out with nothing. That's something that's really easy for us to believe in our head, but it's something totally different for us to believe in our hearts. We work our whole lives trying to store up as much and as much and as much and as much as we can, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a totally different thing to think in your head than to believe with your heart. And it goes on in verse 8 and it says this, but if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. I mean, just pause there for a moment and try to wrap your mind around that. He says, if we have food and clothing and an iPhone, I can be content with that, right? No. If I have food and clothing, we will be content with that. So I think one of the things that Paul is trying to teach us is that the richest people are not those that have the most, but the richest people are those that are content with what they have. So he's trying to teach us that the richest people aren't those that have the most, but those that are content with what they have. And really all you have to do is go to someplace else in the world. You need to go to someplace else in the world and you see that they have food and they have shelter, and that's about it. There's no electricity, there's no running water, and they're content. And we think about our lives and it seems so different from everywhere else in the world, from the way that they're living, and we realize that we're a little bit blessed. And Paul tells us we need to recognize if we have food and clothing, we should be content with that. And then he goes on in verse 9, he says, those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into too many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. That's pretty deep. I mean, that's pretty deep. Those who want to get rich fall into a trap. They plunge themselves into destruction, and that doesn't mean that trying to make money is a bad thing. It's totally different. We'll get there. For verse 10, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So the love of money is a root of all evil. How many of you know people like this? Who they are so eager for wealth that it ruins everything that they have. They go chasing after wealth. They go chasing after some bigger number, some bigger job, and slowly and surely their connection with the church, their connection with God starts to dwindle. Maybe you haven't seen that, or maybe you've seen people, they chase after wealth so much that their relationships start to change. The people they talk to, the people they care about start to change because they're chasing after money so much that nothing else matters. The people they care about, their family, that isn't as important as what they're going after. It's not a big deal. They're just chasing after it, and slowly and surely it breaks everything apart. I'm sure some of us have seen people, we know people where that pursuit has ruined their lives. So when we hear this, it's easy for us to think money's bad. Money is evil. It's a horrible thing, but having money isn't bad. But loving money is a dangerous thing. I think it's more dangerous than we could ever wrap our minds around. So let's talk about this for a second. Jesus said you can't serve God and money, right? He said you can't serve both God and money. He didn't say you can't serve both God and power. He didn't say that. He didn't say you can't serve both God and sex. He said you can't serve God and money because for many of you, money will be the number one competitor for your hearts. It will be the number one competitor. It will bear the biggest destructor of all the riches that God has planned for you. And the thing is that in the Christian world, there's two extremes. There's two extremes when it comes to looking at money and what the church thinks about money. There's two extremes. There's the prosperity gospel. Think Joel Osteen and how no matter what, if you just do good things for God, God's going to pour things out on you. You're going to get all the money you need. Right? But the better you are, the more He will give you. The better person you are, the more you're going to get. That's the prosperity gospel. Well, then there's the other side of that. There's the poverty gospel where people believe the more righteous you are, the less you will have. I mean, and then the opposite of that is if you have stuff, that means you're not righteous. I mean, that's the other side of that, this poverty mindset that the Christians, we're not supposed to have anything. So if you're really righteous, you'll be really poor. And if you're really righteous, you'll be the poorest ever. And that's the two different sides of it. And I think that both of them are equally dangerous. I think that both sides of that coin are equally dangerous. Deuteronomy 8:18 says this. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today. God gives you the ability to produce wealth. If that's the case, then the wealth can't be bad, right? It can't be a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So we have to be careful to not go to one of these two extremes. And I think that all too often when it comes to money and finances, that is the one blessing that God gives us that we apologize for. Like it's the one blessing that God pours out on us that we apologize for. Like somebody will notice that you have a nice car and you'll say, oh, well, I got a really good deal. Don't worry. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not that big. Because we, for some reason, feel embarrassed by what we have. Or they'll say, man, that house you've got, it's really nice. Well, it's got its problems. It's not the greatest house in the world. And we try to explain away these blessings that God has given us. For some reason, when it comes to finances, we want to just push that away. Oh, it's not the best. But we would never do that in other areas of our life. Oh, Adam, you've got the greatest wife. Oh, she's okay. She's not the best. Like, we wouldn't do that. I'm not going to look at her. But for some reason, when it comes to financial blessings, all of a sudden we push that away, and I think it's because we think that the root of all evil is money. We've been taught that for so long, so that when God blesses us with that, when God blesses us financially, we're like, oh, no, it's not as good as you think it would be. It's really hard to have a lot of money. But for some reason, when it comes to money, we try to push that away. And we shouldn't be embarrassed by the blessings that God gives us financially. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't be trying to push that away, but we should try to be maximizing those blessings for the work of God. We should try to be maximizing those blessings for the work of God. And some of you are like, all right, He's going to ask me for my money. I'm not going to. I'm going to talk about money and not even ask you for it. So you can just kind of breathe easy. But in verse 17, Paul is about to get all up in your business. Like he's about to get all in your face. And this is what he says in verse 17. He says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, which richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Not to be arrogant, not to put our hope in wealth, but to look at God who provides. And for years I ran past that verse. For years I ran past that verse because I didn't think I was rich. I mean, that has nothing to do with me because I'm not rich. But I've got $2, and I'll give it to anybody that wants it. You got to come get it. And we laugh, right? Because a child came forward to get $2. What if I told you that most of the world only makes $2 a week? What if I told you that the thing that we laughed about because we saw it as so small, is so significant in most of the world, that people would have came running. They would have trampled each other for that. And all of a sudden our idea of wealth starts to look a little bit different. Most of us right now in our purses or in our pockets have hundreds of dollars of electronics. And you're like, not me, I still got a flip phone. Did you know that if you own a vehicle, it puts you in the top 9% of the wealthiest people in the world? And some of us, we will get in our cars, right? And we will drive them to go eat lunch. We will go to a restaurant where someone will cook food for us, serve us, and put it on the table. And not only that, when we go into our restaurant, we will drive past like 40 other ones to get to our favorite one. Some of us this morning went to our closet and we spent 30 minutes to find out that we have nothing to wear. I mean, we spent a lot of time and pillaged through tons of clothing, and we realized we got nothing to wear. Right now, we are in a climate-controlled room. There is plumbing, and when you flush the toilet, it all goes away. Most of the time. But we're rich. You and I, we are rich. We are blessed beyond measure. We have so many good things. And we don't need to apologize for it. But we need to maximize it. We didn't deserve it, but God put us in this place. And what we need to realize is that discontentment makes any person poor. Discontentment can make any person poor. If you are unhappy with what you have, no matter how much money you have, if you are not happy with what you have, you will always feel poor. But the opposite of that is the exact same truth. Contentment can make any person rich. If you're content with what you have, you'll be a rich person. if you're content with everything that you have, that makes you rich. So let's see this again. He says, command those who are rich, that's us, not to put their hope in money, not in wealth, but in God, who richly provides for us. I mean, I'm sure you could talk to lots of wealthy people who a few years ago lost a whole lot of money in a stock market crash. And they can tell you about putting your hope in wealth. But why is it, do you think, that we tend to put our hope in wealth? Why is it when I ask if just a little more would make us happy, did so many of us raise our hands beside the fact that I kept pushing you to? Because money, it promises what only God can provide. Money promises what only God can provide. Jesus says you can't serve both God and money, and money promises that you can be happy. Money promises us that if we have more, we can buy all the things we need and we will be happy. Well, how much do you need? Just a little more. Just a little more. Just a little bit more. Well, I thought that would be enough. Nope, something else changed. It's not enough. I need just a little bit more. And money, it doesn't just promise us happiness, but it also promises us security. It promises us security. If I could just get that one card paid off, if I could just get that one more car, if I could just have a little bit more, my life would be secure. I wouldn't have anything to worry about. Everything would be perfect. It's all I would need. So money promises happiness. Money promises security, and it also promises us significance. It promises us significance. We can drive up to a party in a broken down car, and everybody's looking, and all of a sudden we're embarrassed, right? But if we drive up to that same party in a brand new car and you open the door and the leather seats are smelling out and it's not all the smells that your kids left in there, all of a sudden we start to feel pretty significant. People start looking at us a little bit different. And it's all because money promises what only God can provide. And when we get there, we think, you know what, I just need a little bit more. I need just a little bit more. And we're deceived because we've become under the power of money. And money will never meet our deepest needs. Money will never meet your deepest needs. No matter what you think, no matter how you feel, money will never meet your deepest needs because only Jesus can do that. Only Jesus can do that. And you keep thinking, you know what, all this depression that I have in my life, it's all because I don't have the things I need. It's all because I need just a little bit more. And money is never going to fix that problem. Only Jesus can do that. But money promises us it can fix all of our problems, but it's never going to be that because Jesus is all that we need. But money promises us so much more. And the thing is when we don't have a whole lot of Jesus, money starts looking real good. When we don't have a lot of Jesus, money starts looking real, real good. But if we have a lot of Jesus, we start to learn to be content with what we have. If there's a whole lot of Jesus in our life, we start to realize that we can be content with what we have. And the more Jesus we get, the more we realize maybe the things that He's giving me aren't just for me. Maybe the things that He's giving me aren't just for me. Maybe He's giving me some so I can bless other people. Maybe He's just pouring out of my life so I can help someone else. Maybe this blessing isn't just for me. Paul said godliness with contentment is great gain. Some of you are searching for something that you will never get satisfied with. You'll never be satisfied. You'll always need more. But what you really need more of is Jesus. You really need more Jesus. You need more grace. You need more peace. You need His presence, His power. He is everything. He is your assurance. And suddenly, when you have more of Him, you aren't craving more of everything else. Suddenly, when you have more of Jesus and you get deeper with Jesus, suddenly you're not craving everything else in this world. Because He's your assurance. You realize that He is all you will ever need. You realize that He is always with you. And in verse 18, here is what Paul says to the rich people. He says, command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. And listen, when I was growing up, I would have heard this verse, and I'd be like, that's right, those rich people need to share with me. And all of a sudden, I realized that rich people is me. And godliness with contentment is great gain. Verse 19 says, in this way they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so they may take hold of the life that is truly life. That life you've been searching for and couldn't find. So I grew up with this poverty mindset. I got to have more, I got to have more, I got to have more, I got to have more. And you would think that the cure to that poverty mindset is just more money. You would think, and then you would learn that the more that you need and the more you think you need, the way to cure that problem is to have more. And I'll tell you, I think the way to cure that mindset is to be more generous. I will guarantee you that it will change your life and it will change your outlook if all of a sudden the more you think you need, the more you start to give away. Because all of a sudden, your view starts to change. The way you see people, the way that you feel you need, if you start to hand that away, all of a sudden it changes because it is a huge step of faith. Because when you start to give away, basically what you're saying is, God, I know I have needs, but I'm trusting you to take care of all of those things. And this person before me, this event, this thing, I know they have a need, so I'm just going to give it to them. I guarantee you that your mindset will start to change. Everything in you will start to change. Your heart will start to change. You will see money in a totally different way. You won't be craving it for yourself or for your own personal gain anymore, but you will be wanting it so you can share it with everyone around you. And let me just say this. This is just an aside. This isn't in my notes. Let me just say this. I think one of the biggest ploys of the enemy is to get us to question why we're giving. Well, they don't really need it. They're just going to use it for something bad anyway. They're not going to be using it for the right reasons. I saw them last week and they were out eating money and I just gave them $50 and they shouldn't be going out to eat. And one of the biggest things the enemy tries to do is tries to make us not want to give. So he changes our heart to this judgmental heart and says, oh, if I give it to them, they're going to be doing it for the wrong reason anyway. And let me tell you, if you give it out of the right heart, that's all that matters. Sure, we're not supposed to keep funding people's problems. But if you give out of the right heart, that's all that matters. If I was preaching prosperity this morning, I'd say if you give out of the right heart, that's all that matters, and God will bless you abundantly. And that may be the case. But I tend to think He already has blessed us abundantly. Will you stand with me this morning? You say, he's talked a whole lot this morning. All I know is money isn't evil. But I'm not supposed to love it either. Here's the one takeaway that I hope you can find this morning is this. God has blessed you. And if you can be content with what He has given you, your joy will come. And the riches of this life that He has planned for you be waiting as you go forward. And sometimes riches aren't always money. Sometimes riches are happiness beyond belief, are friendships and relationships that no one else can ever have, that they can never get that deep on a level with because they have other things in the way. Pray with me this morning. Father, I thank you for today. Lord Jesus, be with us. Lord, be with me in those moments that I put money above you. When I put my hope in money, that money will save me, Father. Father, I pray for myself that you'll help me to fall back onto you. Lord, I pray for each and every one of us here this morning that you'll help us to be content with what you've given us. That you'll help us to find contentment so that we can have great gain. Jesus, this morning, we declare our love for you. We praise you for all that you've done and all that you will do. It's in your mighty name we pray. Amen. Come as the Lord leads you.